Okay. Alright guys, so welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about how I actually made money buying this house. So back in 2020, I purchased this studio for around $400,000, and back then it was during COVID prices, so everything was on discount, and I decided to jump into downtown because I wanted to, experience the life here in downtown because I've never lived here. So before we talk about the numbers, before I show you guys how I actually made money buying this studio, I just want to kind of talk about the backstory of how I actually landed here in the first place. So back in 2019, my brother and I, we flew from Singapore to Los Angeles, and we were actually renting a small room in Roland Heights, which is east of LA. And back then everything was okay, it was fine, because I think for the first few months the landlord wasn't there. But as soon as she came back to the house, there was a little bit of tension because she was complaining about everybody's habits. She said that my neighbor, the landlord, said that she was cooking too much. So she's Chinese and she likes to cook lunch, breakfast and dinner. I'm sorry, breakfast, lunch and dinner. Okay, that's fine, right? And then after a few weeks have gone by, she started complaining to other people that I was showering for too long. Like, I think I make a great tenant because I never ever use the kitchen, and whenever I shower, which I shower only once a day, I would shower for like 20-30 minutes. The shower is like the one thing I look forward to every single day. Unfortunately, there was some tension going on and I really wanted to move out as fast as I could. That's when I started looking out in Los Angeles to see if there's any house that's like $450,000 and below. And by the way, I bought this house with just my money, not with my parents' money. A lot of people think that when Asians buy houses, they use their parents' money, but that's not true. Not all Asians are reliant on their parents. Besides, I feel like I've already taken a lot of my parents' money. I don't want to be a financial burden to them. In fact, I think I should be providing for them, and I would really want to provide for them one day if I could. I was looking for houses around 450K, and when I found this studio, it was around 400,000, which is below the market value. My next door neighbor got the studio for like almost 550, so I think it was a really good deal at the time. So I found a real estate agent to help me with this property. We actually made a deal. I was the one who found this property, but I needed his help so that I would get a better discount on the property. Okay, so later when I run through the numbers, I'll share with you guys tips and tricks on how you can pay as little as possible and save as much as possible. Let's go to the drawing board. Let's go. Alright guys, so here comes the fun part. This is where we will be breaking down the numbers, and I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys, okay? So cost of the house is 400,000, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is the down payment for the house. Well, a lot of people that I know, they think that 20% down payment is what is required in order to buy a house. But the truth is, if you are a first-time home buyer and you are a US citizen, or you have a green card, or maybe you are a legal resident in the area, you get to put in a 3% down payment for the house, if not 5%. So I did the first-time home buyer program, and it cost me around $150 to take the course. But once you pass, then you're eligible for the benefits, okay? So if you did this, you can put down a 3% down payment, right? And 3% of $400,000, what is it? Hey Siri, what is 3% of 400,000?
The answer is 12,000.
Alright, so this is the down payment for the property, but on top of that, I also want to point out that as part of the first-time home buyer program, you're able to use up to $10,000 from your 401k. Okay, so this is retirement money. And on top of that, I want to talk about my closing costs. So the closing costs probably cost me around $6,000, and in total, $18,000. So this is actually what my real costs are from purchasing the property, the down payment and the closing costs, okay? So first of all, when you purchase a place, there is something called the buyer agency fee. Sometimes it's 2%, 2.5 or 3%, depends on the developer. So for my case, it was 2.5%, okay? And this is the buyer agency fee. So what that means is if the real estate agent were to connect you as the buyer to the seller is going to reward the real estate agent with a 2.5% fee just for connecting the both of you, right? So the 2.5% fee for the real estate agent, that comes down to 10.5K. So my real estate agent was able to make 10.5K off of this transaction. But before we got into putting in an offer, we negotiated where I would collect $6,000 back and he would keep the rest. Okay, so my savings here was actually 6 grand. So number one, I would always recommend you to negotiate with a real estate agent, because sometimes when you're the one doing all the research and finding the house, your real estate agent is the one doing the paperwork, like what I did with my real estate agent. Now, point number two, when I purchased the property, the developer was able to offer some perks, okay? And that was 2 years of my HOA, which is my condominium fees. The HOA actually costed me $820, and 2 years, $820. This is almost $20,000, right? 20K right here. So on top of that, I told the developer to bring the price of the property down, but he wasn't able to. So I asked, okay, maybe you can pay some of my closing costs, right? So they agreed to pay $5,000. What they did was they credit back into my closing costs. So when I purchased the place, the developer actually put in $5,000 as a credit back. So I didn't have to pay $6,000 off the bat. I just have to pay $1,000 to cover the difference. After we closed the property, because there was a 1-year warranty, right? The developer asked you to find any defects within 1 year. And if you can find a defect and you submit a claim, the developer would then have to either fix the problem or give you a reimbursement. So I did point out a few items to the developer. I said that these are stuff that is a defect, and please can you fix it for me? So the developer was able to fix some of the flooring, some of the painting, some of the millwork issue with the house. But then there were some issues that the developer was not able to fix, such as my medicine cabinet in the bathroom where my mirrors are slightly tilted. The developer actually gave me $1,000 credit back. So if we add this up, right? 1 plus 5 plus 20K plus 6. I got 32 grand. 32 grand was what I made, minus my cost of $18,000 equals $14,000 that I get to keep after closing this property. Alright guys, so before I move on to my next point on more ways you can save money, please, it's not easy making these type of videos, so if you can like, subscribe, I would really appreciate it. The next thing that I wanted to share with you guys is property taxes. So property taxes, they're usually due twice a year. For example, in the year 2022, you're supposed to pay your property taxes in April and in November. All right, so my property taxes in Los Angeles is probably around 1.1%. So 1.1% of $400,000. Hey Siri.
The answer is 4,400.
All right, so I have to pay a property tax of $4,400 a year. And the thing is, because it's due in April and in November, I was able to save on taxes by closing my property in March. Earlier, the backstory was this. In November, I started looking for a house, right? And in December is when I found this studio and I put in an offer. I could close in January, but if I were to close in January, I would have to pay 2.2K in property taxes for April, because when they legally transfer over the title to me and it's under my name, it's not the developer that pays, but I would have to pay it, right? So what happened was I closed my property in March 30th, okay? And I moved in April 1st. So when I did this, I technically wasn't a legal resident in this studio yet until April 1st. Anything before April 1st, I didn't have to pay. When property tax was due in April, I was able to save 2.2K. But I did pay the property taxes for November, obviously. So that's one way you can save the money. On top of that, there is a property tax relief for Californians. So this only applies to Californians. If you are in California and that home that you're living in is your primary residence, you're able to submit a form to the city to deduct $7,000 off your assessed home value. The house is 400K minus 7K equals 393K. 1.1% of this equals 4,323. If you subtract 4,323 from 4.4K, you get $77. I'm gonna put over here savings of $77, okay, which is a really nice number, by the way. There you have it. This is your ultimate guide to home buying for the first time. And this, if you follow all the steps here, you'll save the most money and pay as little as possible. In total, I was able to save 32 grand plus 2.2 plus 77. You know, I really hope that you can also build home equity yourself instead of just paying rent, because rent, ultimately, in my head, you're paying for somebody else's mortgage. And why would you want to pay for somebody else's mortgage when you can pay for your own mortgage, right? I'm a big believer in owning your first house, or owning a house in general, build home equity from there. All right, guys, I really hope that this video helped you. If it did help you, please give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Save as much as possible and pay as little as possible. Have a good one, guys, and I hope that you have a great week ahead.